These past few years have been quite complicated for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Too many series, an overall drop in quality, unlikely events, and a general loss of an audience that can't seem to renew itself. We can blame several factors for this decline: superhero fatigue, controversial executive decisions, and losing Captain and Tony. Some will probably even say it's because of an ideology that's not focused on their audience's expectations, or simply a universe that's way too big and inconsistent for everyone to keep up with. What if this was all much simpler than we think? What if, in the end, it was only about characters and stories? In the end, what matters most is how you tell your story. Some recent projects have done more for Marvel characters than hours of other content. X-Men '97 captures the soul of mutants better than ever, your friendly neighbor. Spider-Man captured the web-slinger's essence in a series fully separate from the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Or even recently, Marvel Zombies managed in just 2 hours to create stakes and affection for characters we've barely seen in this saga. Worse, it paid much more tribute to the veterans like Thor and Hulk than anything that's been done in the past 5 years. And all of this tells us one thing: there's still hope. No, the Marvel Cinematic Universe isn't dead. People still love the iconic characters, and younger fans remain attached to Spider-Man and Black Panther. My son loves them too. Marvel's main issue is failing to create new iconic characters and, more importantly, getting tangled in their storytelling. That's why, together, today we're going to humbly try to fix the Multiverse saga, a saga meant to immerse us in the complex concept of choices and consequences, and prove that these last 5 years could have, I would even say should have, been a massive banger. So we're going to talk about all the projects in the saga. We are therefore entering the spoiler zone, the danger zone. You are with Kevin Bukart, your favorite theorist from your favorite tar, right? Opening credits. Alright, let's get back to the video. Before we dive into this experiment, we need to understand what didn't work in this saga. To do that, we'll go over all the phases to try to make a quick assessment. Unlike a lot of my videos, we won't try to justify why certain decisions were made based on behind-the-scenes events, but instead, we'll simply focus on the storytelling. It's still important to know what choices were considered before the saga started. After Endgame, Kevin Feige focused on Secret Wars and the Reset, setting up the Marvel Cinematic Universe's 20th anniversary and a new era with the Fantastic Four and X-Men. It must create a global event, the destruction of the multiverse and the formation of a new Earth that will serve as a starting point for new generations. By the end of Phase 3, the Marvel Cinematic Universe had 23 films and nearly 3 times more have been released since. The conclusion of which leads to a 5-year gap, but more importantly, to the disappearance of 3 of the original Avengers. And clearly, you have to brace yourself to figure out how to bounce back. Kevin Feige originally planned for T'Challa, Carol Danvers, and Peter Parker to be his new trinity, but things didn't go as planned. Well, first of all, we can't count Black Widow, which clearly should have come out years earlier. The post-COVID saga begins with 3 series following Endgame: WandaVision, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and Loki. Clearly, there's not much to say about that. We follow up on Wanda's trauma, we prepare the next Avengers with a new captain, we launch the multiverse with an event that started in Endgame. It's almost perfect. 2021 is actually quite an extraordinary year, with nearly 10 projects in a single year. Phase 4 is taking a big gamble, giving a certain amount of freedom to a bunch of writers and directors who had never worked with the studio before to let them bring their own vision to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Already well established, and it has to be said, it works. With these series, Marvel is betting on styles like Daniel Cretton's to introduce Shang-Chi, and that's a success too. The movie has its flaws, but people like it. And above all, the post-credits scene gives us a real glimpse of what the next Avengers team could look like. At that moment, we're all in. Yes, hurry, 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 except no. Next comes Eternals, directed by Chloe Zhao, who recently won an Oscar for Nomadland. She brings a brand new story to little-known heroes, the Eternals. The film isn't met with huge applause, but it does present an interesting direction. Still, there's an awkwardness. What happened during the snap? Why is there little discussion about our hero's fate after the snap? The series addresses this question. Hawkeye, a surprise hit of 2021 and 2022, arrives, promising 4 movies and 4 fan-favorite franchises. Spider-Man returns with Doctor Strange, the other 2 Spider-Men, and further explores the multiverse concept. Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness boldly explores journeys into other universes. The Multiverse saga has started, now including the Inhumans, the Fantastic Four, and the X-Men. And clearly, it's madness. And all of this starts in Phase 4, but it also twists the fate of one of the fans' favorite characters. Wanda turns into the main villain and vanishes after everyone grows attached to her. In her series' first mistake, Thor: Love and Thunder is especially confusing. We see New Asgard's evolution and Thor's journey since Endgame, but the rest feels off. Taking a step back, you see that these movies are mostly standalones, except for Spider-Man and Doctor Strange, which are connected. They leave doors open, and each post-credits scene sets up more events. Again and again, Black Panther: Wakanda Forever comes along, and once again, the movie offers an incredible tribute to Chadwick Boseman, but not so much to what Black Panther represents. For the fans. The only real positive point of the movie, in my opinion, is Namor. But nothing really moved forward since the post-credit scene was supposed to introduce Doctor Doom right away. A last-second change left no character truly ready for what's next, since which sequel are we even referring to? For the first time since the beginning of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the phase doesn't end with an ensemble film. No, the Avengers no longer exist, and they're not about to exist again anytime soon. Marvel Television introduces Ms. Marvel, a charming adaptation with a great actress, ending by revealing Kamala is a mutant. The only problem is, at that point, it's 2022. This information only served to open another new door. Moon 9 brings in a new hero who's intriguing but ultimately much duller than in the comics, leaving us somewhat unsatisfied. Once again, a hero we'll never see again, okay? And I'm not going to say anything about She-Hulk. No, it gives me a stomachache, right? But it's just writers who think they're smarter than their audience. Someone completely misunderstood the character and treated her wrongly. The year ends with 2 Marvel specials, a new development. The first is Werewolf by Night, the very first project that comes close to being an adult project. It's mild, but it still aims to be horror-themed. And finally, the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special, which adds some lore that will be used in the story of the last Guardians movie, Hallelujah. We're at the end of Phase 4 and finally, a secret connection, but Phase 5 is starting. And here, my friends, oh boy, Ant-Man and the Wasp. Quantumania marks Marvel's first slowdown as a tribute to Star Wars. In the quantum world, for its writer, the infamous Jeff Loveness, a missed chance to showcase Kang the Conqueror, intended as the saga's main villain, with a bittersweet ending. A post-credit scene teases something big, but it leads to nothing. Next is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Excellent, but as usual, stands alone. As for the series, that's another story. I don't even know if we should talk about that one, because obviously, when we're given a title like Secret Invasion, we can't help but expect a lot from it. The result is a disaster. For example, Samuel L. Jackson simply refused a Season 2. No thank you, goodbye. The poor guy then did the Marvels. The idea made sense, uniting characters from WandaVision, Miss Marvel, and Captain Marvel for a Skrull-filled adventure leading to the first incursion. Honestly, it has everything, but the movie has nothing. Well, it does introduce us to the X-Men universe, so that'll pay off soon. Guys, don't panic, we're holding on. Actually, once again, the Marvel Cinematic Universe is thinking backwards. In the past, characters were introduced in big movies among the iconic characters, and then their stories were developed afterwards. That was something that allowed them to immediately build up their aura so they could attract the audience and make people want to know more about them. For example, Wanda debuted in Age of Ultron and developed later, while Spidey and Black Panther were expertly introduced in Civil War before being developed in their own films. Here, in reality, nobody really knows Monica or Kamala, so the movie doesn't interest many people. Carol Danvers has little impact on the saga, and audiences aren't interested in her. She only appears briefly at the end of Endgame and barely speaks. In short, in the middle of this year, while Marvel is struggling, the gem of this saga comes into play, Season 2 of Loki. The only problem is, we'll learn later that it evolved completely on its own, so the events of the series will probably never be fully used. Loki is the god of stories. Okay, but nobody knows if he really won against He Who Remains. And anyway, the Kangs don't matter anymore. Basically, it's like an Infinity Stone ending up as a paperweight. So Marvel is coming out of 2 years that will make them question absolutely everything. Everything needs to be reworked. The current setup has totally lost the mainstream audience and quite a few fans, with the only problem being on the television side. The outgoing Chief Executive Officer Bob Chapek had launched 8,773 projects that will have to be released somehow. Echo is released, a series most people don't care about, but it links Hawkeye and Daredevil, born again at the street level. Something is being built, but that's not all. Agatha All Along is a direct sequel to WandaVision, suggesting a WandaVision family trilogy could be compelling. But let's not get carried away. That's not what's going to bring people to theaters, right? The project that's going to excite everyone is Deadpool and Wolverine. A massive project honoring all Fox movies and bringing the time variance authority to theaters. It's the movie that's good for Marvel, but not just that, it's good for all of Hollywood. A glimmer in the darkness. Well, I'm talking about numbers here. As for the Marvel Cinematic Universe, it does bring a new concept, the agglomerators, but it doesn't really move the story forward, at least for now. Thus begins the recovery year of 2025. Over 4 years after his debut, Sam Woodson is officially Captain America in the movies, and Tiamut is finally mentioned. You know the Celestial in the sea, but no one mentions the one that appeared above London. You can't have it all. We're dealing with a messed up movie that ends with a rushed post-credits scene, vaguely hinting something is coming without saying what. You need a Marvel Doctor of Philosophy to get it, or just watch Kevin Buckhart's channel. And finally, we hear the word Avengers again, 6 years after the last time. Yes, Sam is going to rebuild the Avengers with Falcon. But that's not all, because the movie Thunderbolts actually marks the studio's narrative renewal. A great movie that highlights some lesser-known characters, but the film finally manages to make them better in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And most importantly, by the end of the movie, we actually care about them. It feels great, like a miracle. Except Marvel is trying to trick us into thinking it's a movie. Avengers. We're not fooled. None of the expected Avengers characters are here, but they'll return in 2026. On the television side, Daredevil Born Again is half good, half bad. And it's mainly there to lead us to a season 2 that will finally have a real impact on the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And Ironheart gives us news about the most irrelevant character from Wakanda Forever. And honestly, she has potential. Personally, I preferred her in her 10 minutes of screen time in Marvel Zombies, but you should really look forward to this series. It introduces Mephisto. That's crazy, right? In short, the phase ends again without any major events bringing the new and old heroes from the past 5 years together. So Phase 6 begins with a promise, this time it's for real. Friends, the Fantastic Four introduces us to Marvel's first family in their own universe. I thought it was great, but it's still disconnected. Well, yes, because in the end, it's the only film of this kind in another universe, even though it would have been a great idea in a so-called multiversal saga. Despite a fresh team and new ideas, the film fails to draw audiences to theaters, especially since it's on Disney just 2 months later. It's always the same problem. The year ends with the low-key projects Eyes of Wakanda, which has no interference, and Marvel Zombies, which is a separate project. I didn't include non-Marvel Cinematic Universe animated series like What If or X-Men 97 since they're not relevant here. 2026 will be the year of redemption. Yes, now you get it. The public has completely lost interest in all these isolated storylines and heroes we've never seen again. But Marvel isn't giving up and is bringing out the heavy artillery. The revival of Spider-Man, the Punisher, and Hulk, with the promise of giving fans what they deserve. Before this huge movie, Daredevil Born Again Season 2 and the Punisher special will be released. 2 projects should better meet fan expectations and help set up the Spider-Man movie. And of course, the end of the year will lead us to the end of the WandaVision trilogy with Vision Quest. But honestly, what everyone is really interested in is obviously Avengers Doomsday. To finally have a team-up movie against a threat bigger than the heroes, we had to wait 7 years, my friends, 7 years. Let's hope they've really learned from the past. Because this long chapter allowed us to really go through all the projects. And if we have to draw a conclusion, I think the real mistake was doing everything out of order. No project links the Snaps events to what follows. New heroes are promoted but not fully integrated into the heroes' universe. The multiverse is overly complex and misused. Most importantly, the Avengers, the Marvel Cinematic Universe's foundation, are missing, which is dramatic. Because it's really in the Avengers movies that Captain and Tony showed their leadership, but also their humanity, both the good and the bad sides. Without Avengers movies, Natasha and Clint would only be side characters. And as we see in the Marvel Zombies series, it's the interaction of all these personalities that creates unique, but above all, endearing exchanges. A connected world has to be connected. It can't just appear connected. That's what we'll try together. Phase 4, the post-snap. So now we're getting into the really interesting part of this video, the part where we're going to have some fun. Like I said in the intro, the idea isn't to go off in all directions. No, we're going to take what we have and see how we could have improved it. I'm limiting myself to 3 or 4 wildcards, just a few more movies added to the roster. We'll work with what we have. I'll admit it's easier to do this from my office, but it's just a YouTube video, not a moratorium. Let's have fun playing Kevin Feige. Let's get started. I'm not changing anything about the first 3 series because this Phase 4 is, in my opinion, the launch of several arcs. The first one is the Multiverse arc. Loki introduces the multiverse and Kang, both crucial for my saga. The WandaVision series introduces Grief and Wanda's children, who play a key role in the multiverse's destruction. I might have just added some interaction between them. Doctor Strange connects things, while Wanda creates her children through multiverse dreams. The magic and demonic elements should have started here with a clear explanation of the Darkhold. But above all, a golden opportunity to introduce the occult arts of Octone and Darkness with the arrival of Mephisto in the background. But the post-credits scene would remain the same with Monica Rambeau. She's invited to join Nick Fury, who is with Skrulls setting up future events. The Falcon and the Winter Soldier series should have focused on the Snaps events. The Flag Smashers are interesting, but only highlight the aftermath of the return. The show could have explored how society organized itself during the absence while maintaining its social focus. Integrating the idea of ostracizing part of the population and dividing the world between those snapped and those not becomes the main theme of my Phase 4, Division. The section with Isaiah Bradley is interesting and deserved a bigger payoff. Elijah, Patriot, should have started the Young Avengers project. And I think we should have seen that he had superior strength when trying to defend his grandfather from an attacker. And why not from someone who was snapped, because you'll understand soon. For me, the perfect conclusion to this whole phase should have led to a movie. Avengers Secret Invasion, because talking about the snap just for the sake of talking about the snap isn't really interesting. Secret. Invasion should have been teased throughout the phase, through a world in constant instability linked to the secret invasion of the Skrulls, an invasion that was made easier by the disappearance of billions of people. Amid widespread paranoia, many believed the instability of the post-snap world fueled the worst conspiracy theories. Many groups believe aliens are among us. This atmosphere would have welcomed Shang-Chi to a city scarred by Endgame, where distrust prevails. Meanwhile, half the population has returned, causing real family tragedies similar to what Shang-Chi faced, but from the perspective of someone who was snapped. His journey would then have shown us what a world without Avengers looks like, a post-snap world. A world overrun by crime, with Shang-Chi defending against his father's empire. I'm not saying Talos' story is bad, right? But the first part of the movie should have shown us more of this interesting part, which connects to his own story, while keeping the post-credits linked to a future Avengers team. With, for example, an Ant-Man who offers to be a mentor, since he's also in San Francisco, and a Carol Danvers saying she has found a trace of Steve Rogers. This may sound odd at first, but you'll soon see my point. The Eternals movie would have come out at a time when they, as aliens, are on a planet gripped by paranoia. They vowed not to intervene, but with half the population back, the emergence can resume. Icarus, like in the movie, positions himself to carry out the plan. With the Deviants' return, Earth faces a new threat. Alien dangers now feel more present, but they're not invading like Thanos did. But events are happening all over the world without explanation. A sneaky threat. A stone giant appears in the middle of the sea, another in the London sky, with no explanation at all. The post-credits scene still connects Blade and Black Knight, but this time, events in Cairo are teased, and Blade. Maud mentions that it might be linked to the disappearance of the Darkhold. That's how Moon Knight begins, in a London where everyone talks about the Celestial's head. And continuing in the streets of Cairo, where new metahumans are causing chaos, Moon Knight spreads panic and no one knows who he is. Yes, the world is in constant turmoil. This benefits shadow organizations and further helps the Skrulls establish themselves. And for demons to create minions on Earth to carry out their plans, creating a god versus demon battle, because Moon Knight shouldn't have limited himself to Egyptian gods. It was a golden opportunity to develop the relationship between the gods, as the Marvel Cinematic Universe sees it, as well as the demons. For example, Khonshu facing Anubis, Anubis announcing the coming of darkness on Earth, putting Moon Knight in a favorable position for a demonic future. The post-credits scene might show Stephen Grant waking in a hellish dimension, allowing Khonshu to take over with the more violent Jack Lockley personality. No Way Home throws New York into deeper chaos, and while the movie could have taken a different approach, it's still crucial for Peter's growth. Though Strange's spell returns those linked to Spider-Man, it remains unstable. In this version, many beings from rifts between universes escape and stay in Universe 616, a spell that alone would have caused chaos in reality's fabric. This mission becomes Doctor Strange's focus in his movie. No, Wanda won't be the villain in my Phase 4 version. Instead, I'm using the Strange movie to introduce a new demon, whether it's Nightmare or Dormammu. Interdimensional beings, manifestations of the world's own demons and nightmares, would then invade. He would then be helped by America, Chavez, and Wanda, still searching for her children, to try to defeat these demons that have become reality. Together, they aim to reach the source of these interdimensional breaches that spread demons across multiple universes. Overwhelmed, Wanda reveals she has the Darkhold, prompting Strange to corrupt himself to tackle the source of the problem. He used dreamwalking to hunt Nightmare, Baron of the Dream Dimension, more effectively. This adventure caused multiple incursions, for which Clea held him responsible. Throughout his multiverse journey, he finds many ruined universes, including one with a survivor. A variant whispers the origin to him. The dynasty must be defeated. Then, a brief tease of Kang Strange would serve as a lead-in to the coming multiversal crisis. So, the movie would end with Strange joining Clea to address the incursions and uncover their cause, until Clea mentions Rabo Malala. This movie could have launched the saga's main story, similar to Guardians of the Galaxy and Age of Ultron with the Stones, and given Wanda a true transition. On their journey, Steven and Wanda would have certainly come across fallen worlds, but also variants with perfect lives, the lives they've always dreamed of. By teaming up with a corrupted Strange and an America whose powers we know, Wanda would have slowly fallen into temptation and eventually surrendered to the Darkhold. Highlight that she didn't just abruptly change between movies, she still tried to resist. The film would emphasize the consequences of their past decisions. The multiverse principle shows how a single choice can lead to different lives, but let's get back to reality. The Hawkeye and Ms. Marvel series would have introduced the concept of the Young Avengers in the state. I'm not really changing the series, well maybe, except for Kingpin, making him a much more threatening figure. If I change the ending of Ms. Marvel, I won't include Kamala being a mutant, right? I'm hinting at her importance at the saga's end, since the series shows the bracelets enable travel through both space and time. So, using these bracelets wouldn't have made her disappear at the end of the movie, replaced by Carol, but would have opened a passage to a young Vision of the future. An inert white Vision. Avengers Protocol alert. We'll revisit that later. Here, I add the Guardians Special, then Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 to make space for upcoming items. These standalone projects could fit anywhere. If you're watching without subscribing, that's not cool, just like your subscription. It's currently the best way to support me, so don't hesitate to subscribe, give a thumbs up, and turn on the bell if you don't want to miss a single video. Secret Invasion. It's the end of 2022, and I think it's the perfect time to have a movie. Captain America with Sam Wilson is now in the place of Black Panther 2. Amid global paranoia, fake news, and conspiracy theories, a man becomes United States president by vowing to restore world security. General Ross asks Sam to assemble a new Avengers team with members he personally chose. A team made up of modest heroes, former villains, but also true legends, including the return of Steve Rogers and Carol Danvers, an announcement that shocks the world. Sam too, but he can't say no to Steve, only he knows something's wrong. He investigates his return and Ross's true motives when Nick Fury suddenly reappears. He says he created a program with shape-shifting aliens years ago but lost control. He believes the President of the United States is a Skrull. Before he can elaborate, Nick Fury is assassinated and Sam is sure he knows the killer. It's Carol Danvers, the longtime ally of the Skrulls. Sam no longer knows who to trust, especially since Ross's actions are becoming more and more chaotic, leading humanity straight into a world war between nations over control of Tiamut Island and its resources. Above all, he's creating a policy that fuels paranoia and pits everyone against each other. Sam, now also paranoid, ends up surrounding himself with a team of close allies: Isaiah, his grandson Patriot, Falcon, Bucky, and Captain. Together, they confront Ross, who, cornered, ends up transforming into Red Hulk. No, he's not an alien, he's a Hulk. For years, Ross wasn't poisoned and manipulated by Samuel Stern, but by his doctors and closest advisors, replaced by Skrulls who made him head of state to boost their influence and infiltrate the Avengers. They aim to create chaos while taking control of the heroes. In the fight, the Avengers subdue Red Hulk, but Steve is fatally wounded. However, his blood isn't red. His body transforms into an alien. Nick Fury was right. Earth has been invaded. We end this Phase 4 with Avengers: Secret Invasion. Paranoia spreads among heroes and institutions, causing chaos on Earth. Sam doesn't know who to trust anymore and has to assemble a brand new Avengers team. Kamala followed the Vision protocol to recruit Kate Bishop, which led them to Hawkeye and Sam. Together, they decipher the protocol. Avengers stand over the body of a white Vision from the future, a world where they lost everything in a war that destroyed Earth. We learn they tried sending Vision back to warn their past selves and help recruit and train new Avengers. Now isn't the time for that, because Earth has been infiltrated by Skrulls with help from the most powerful Avenger, the traitor Captain Marvel. Sam uses the Vision program to find young heroes for his new Avengers team. Heroes and possible future villains, along with unknown Skrulls, face a race against time. They must quickly recruit and train teams to defeat the Skrulls on Earth. Following several confrontations, the Skrulls activate the invasion program, releasing dozens of mutated Skrulls with powers. Heroes and villains reveal themselves on Earth and then invade the streets of New York, Los Angeles, or Paris. Eventually, Sam realizes that Captain Marvel is not the one he knew, but actually the Queen of the Skrulls herself. The real Carol Danvers arrives on Earth with Skrulls to warn of an invasion, but it's too late and a confrontation begins. In New York, Sam, Hulk, Bucky, and young heroes lead the fight. On the West Coast, Chunky, Ant-Man, and other villains lead the battle. And Captain Marvel faces her double, the Queen of the Skrulls, and it's ultimately Wilson Fisk leading a team of gangsters and supervillains who manages to eliminate her. He is seen as a true hero without a queen, and the remaining Skrulls flee if not captured. At the end of the movie, Carol Danvers and Monica Rambeau take command of the Sentient Weapon Observation and Response Division Sabre Space Station. Their mission will be to rescue all the members kidnapped by the Skrulls. Among them are heroes, politicians, and public figures. On Earth, the heroes are more unpopular than ever. The Avengers are blamed and rejected for a new massacre. Wilson Fisk runs for New York mayor to rebuild the city, to create a hero-free world. But Sam knows it. The warning given by this white Vision must be taken seriously, so they establish secret academies for young heroes. The goal is to be ready for what's coming. Several Avengers branches appear on the West Coast to analyze Shang-Chi's rings, which emit a signal. But no one knows who, and on the East Coast, they face new anti-hero policies. Because the post-credits scene teases an event in Wakanda that releases an amount of energy worthy of a snap. And that's where we end the first part of this video. I still have too much to say for just one part. You'll have to wait until next week to fully fix the Multiverse saga, as phases 5 and 6 will push the multiverse's limits. Stay curious, it's the secret to happiness. Ciao.